to tell us about Indy and who do we look for. Charlie already has stated, Eric, that Tony Stewart is the guy, and I'm kind of looking at Sam Hornish as my kind of wild card guy.
So now we'll get the opinion of the expert.
Yeah, now tell us how we're both wrong.
Well, Darren Falcon, a guy who fantasy NASCAR players will know him from One Bad Wheel. He now has a really good site, fantasyracingcheatsheet.com. Him and I, over the past maybe month or two, have been kicking around a brand new NASCAR statistic, metric, whatever you want to call it. We're kind of ironing that out. But based on what we have so far, on the stat that we've built here, the best driver actually at Indy is Greg Biffle. And taking a look at that, he has 4 straight top 10s at Indy, which is the longest active streak. In addition to that, he's obviously been pretty good this season. Although I do like Tony Stewart, and Hornish isn't a bad C-list driver in the Yahoo game. Greg Biffle is the guy that I'm targeting this week.
Huh. Well, tell us more about your new stat.
Well, basically, what we're doing is blending average running position in with the driver's finish and the percentage of laps led in that race since 2005, and kind of taking that versus what we consider a baseline driver. If any of the listeners play fantasy baseball, there's a statistic, WAR, W-A-R, which is wins above replacement.
Right.
Basically, a 0 is a kind of a scrub bench average, well, actually more of an average player. And then, the player who's got about a 4 or so is like an all-star. We kind of took that concept, and although the numbers are much different than that, we kind of took that concept and expanded on it. And we hope to have that all kind of figured out and ready to go for next year. So hopefully, have me on a couple weeks before the season, and we can talk about it a little bit more detail. But it's really exciting, and I think something that people really find useful.
Interesting stuff. Okay, so we're going to the Brickyard. By the way, we're talking to Eric McClung, who writes fantasy racing for KFFL.com. You can follow Eric on Twitter at Eric McClung. Eric, going to the Brickyard. We've got about 5 minutes here. Give us a little bit preview of what your Yahoo team's going to look like sitting here on Tuesday afternoon, 3 days before practice starts.
Gotcha. Well, on the A-list, there's 3 guys. Three big-name guys that you want to look at. You mentioned Tony Stewart earlier. He's definitely a very good option here. 2 wins in Indy. Over the last 3 races, though, he's finished 3rd, 5th, and 6th. Still very good performances. The only trepidation I'd have with Tony Stewart this season is that he's either very, very good or not so good. This season, he has 8 of his 9 top 10s are actually top 3 finishes. So if he doesn't finish in the top 3, he's typically finishing outside of the top 10.
Right.
So there is a little bit of risk there, but he has performed very well at Indy. Obviously has a number of wins already this season. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, Hendrick teammates, have also very good resumes at Indy. Jeff Gordon looks better almost week after week. He's finished 6 or better in his last couple of races there. So although, he had that horrific start to the season, he looks like a very, very good option this week. And he's also won the most races at Indy of all the drivers, total of 4, but none since 2004. However, he did finish as the runner-up last year to Paul Menard. Jimmy Johnson, he won 3 of his Indy races in the span of 4 years. And over the last 2 years, he's qualified extremely well, but he's finished outside of the top 15 in both of those races. So he's able to get the track position, but can't hold on to it late. The B list, I already mentioned Greg Biffle. I think he's pretty much a must start. Mark Martin, I like a lot. He's back. He took about a month off or so. He's back on the car this week. Among all drivers, his career average running position at Indianapolis is 8.9, which is the best. He's got 7 finishes of 11th or better at Indianapolis, even though he's never won there. Only concern with him, 3 DNFs this season, all due to engine failures. So a little bit of concern there, but the numbers overall, very, very good. Rounding out the B list, Casey Kane, I think, is a pretty good option. Been very good over the last couple of weeks. Average running position of 13th or better in each of the last 3 years in Indianapolis. Last year, he led the most laps, 48 laps in all. But with about 40 laps to go, he got hit. I believe Landon Castle ended up finishing 18th, but looked like he was going to win that race for the majority of it. The last spot I have on the B list are two teammates who have done different things in Indianapolis. Jamie McMurray, he won at Indy, of course, in 2010. Was pretty good last year, ended up finishing 4th. And then his teammate, Juan Pablo Montoya, is a very interesting case. He qualifies very well at Indy. He typically runs very well at Indy. But then at some point or another, he gets into trouble. He's crashed 2 of the last 4 years. You know, he's a guy, maybe you put him on the bench, just try to collect the bonus points for qualifying, and then don't start him. You could go that route. But if you do, you know, don't be surprised if he breaks your heart at the end. He's done it to me. He's a guy that the last couple of years I had started Indy, but hasn't really panned out. The C list, Eric Almirola is pretty much the most popular guy week in, week out. However, I don't believe he's ever started at Indianapolis. So you may want to look for other options. We talked about Sam Hornish Jr. He's looked pretty decent at times this year. Hasn't really done anything, though, in a Cup car at Indy. He's never led a lap. I believe he has 3 starts. He's only finished on the lead lap once. So not the best, you know, but it is in the C list. There's not a lot of good options. So I definitely will have Sam Hornish Jr. at the very least on my bench. The other spot, I'm either going to give to Trevor Bain, who started here last year for Bobby Labonte. He made some changes with his team. I believe he has a new crew chief. He's got some pretty decent finishes the last couple of years in Indianapolis. This is a track where, you know, typically need a lot of experience, a lot of savvy. Obviously, he's been around for a number of years, so I think he's a pretty good option. If you want to partner him on your C list with Sam Hornish Jr., I think that's a pretty good option. I mentioned Trevor Bain. You know, he's not in there every week, so you want to try to use him whenever you can. If you want to go that route, not a bad option either.
All right. Pretty well tells me what I want to know.
Let's put him on the spot. Who's your pick for the race, Eric?
Well, I'm going to stand by the new statistic that we're working on. Hopefully next time we talk about it, we have a cool name for it. I'm going to go with the Greg Biffle, and hopefully that holds up. I think the streak of top 10s he's got going on, momentum he has this season, the underlying numbers are all really good stuff. So that's definitely the direction I'm going to go.
All right. So Eric McClung from KFFL.com and Eric McClung on Twitter is taking Greg Biffle. Who are you taking, Steve-O? I'm going to give you a chance to change your mind.
I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski just because I think it's a little farther out there to go with. Yeah, I wimped out.
I'm sticking with Stewart. Eric, thanks again. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks, and good luck with your new stats and all that stuff. He is Eric McClung. You can follow him again on Twitter at Eric McClung and read his fantasy racing
thank you.
columns on KFFL.com. He also does some stuff on Fantasy Football Toolbox, I think.
All right. Take care, Eric. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again.
See you anytime.
All right.
Yep.
There we go.